What's going on, everybody? John here with MachMotorsport, and it's been a hot minute since you saw me last time. And I believe the last time you saw me, I was actually talking about getting rid of my 2018 Type R for my 2018 Subaru BRZ. And as you can tell by this video, I am not currently sitting in the Subaru BRZ. So, what happened? Why the change? Well, in life, lots of things change, specifically circumstances surrounding your employment. Briefly run through it, not to waste too much time on that. I was getting rid of the Type R because I was working at a dealership and I was getting a demo vehicle. So, didn't really need to have the Type R, but was still looking for something that would have been fun. Having had owned a number of 8.6 chassis vehicles, both BRZ and FRS, I figured why not? It was less expensive. In addition to being less expensive, they're fun to drive and would essentially tick off many of the boxes that I was looking to have ticked off in a vehicle. Financially, it made a hell of a lot more sense to get rid of the Type R in lieu of a BRZ and then modify it and have fun with the BRZ while I was driving a demo vehicle. Things have changed. I've changed employment, which has obviously left me without a demo vehicle. And let's be honest, the BRZ, as beautiful as they are, and some of you probably argue otherwise, they are not the most practical daily vehicle. We do get snow, and the weather is not always conducive to a light rear-wheel drive sports car. That being said, I was obviously in the market for another vehicle and wanted to get something that was going to tick off many boxes. I had looked at a lot of different vehicles, considered a Type R again because I had driven my Type R in the winter. Really wanted to get something that would be good in the winter, a sedan because I do have kids, reliable and practical, relatively decent on fuel, and all that other good stuff. Well, I had test driven a number of vehicles, Golf R, Mercedes A-Class, BMW 3 Series, what have you. The car I'm currently driving was actually just on a whim. Prior to having the Type R, I had 2015 Subaru WRX, and I absolutely loved that car. It was an amazing car. Having had owned a number of WRXs before, this was the first of the new generation. Having that direct injected 2-liter, it was definitely a much different responding vehicle to the WRXs that I had owned previously. Another consideration would be another 2015 plus WRX. I wanted one that had the facelift because I really like facelifted style. I had considered it, and on a whim, just by searching in Auto Trader, was looking for WRXs, and all of a sudden I see the car I'm sitting in right now. It's a 2018 WRX STI that was categorized incorrectly along with other WRXs and not in a separate STI group. And so I thought to myself, well, I've always wanted an STI. STIs are great. I had an 04 WRX that was completely modified to JDM STI spec. And I thought to myself, hey, you know what? That would be kind of cool. I went to go test drive it. Truth be told, it was probably, out of all the cars that I had test driven, one of the ones that impressed me probably the least. And the reason I say that is because, truthfully, if you're familiar with STIs, you're going to know that Subaru really hasn't done much. I mean, this STI, for lack of better words, really mechanically hasn't changed much since 2004. Having had driven, obviously, new Mercedes and Golf R and a lot of these German cars that have not only feature an abundant amount of technology, sophisticated engineering, this car is really kind of a dinosaur in comparison to them. Having had owned a 2018 Type R and also a 2015 WRX, arguably, those are a little more advanced mechanically than this car. So why this car? Why the 2018, WRX STI? Well, first of all, it was the facelifted style. Second of all, it was a really good deal, I'm not gonna lie. Now, I do have approximately 60,000 kilometers on the clock. which for, you know, those of us in America land, that's about 40,000 miles. It did have a little high mileage, but it was one owner vehicle with a clean Carfax or car proof, always maintained at the dealer, and the thing was impeccable. The interior was super clean, all the maintenances were done, and so the price was right. I got into this for what I would buy a similarly equipped 2018 WRX would have cost me, and there was the little things that I really enjoyed about this. Went back to talking about how this was the least sophisticated and most advanced. That's what kind of really impressed me about this car. Considering a car for long-term ownership, a lot of things to consider, and one of those things to consider is cost me during the lifespan of the vehicle. What can I expect out of it? So, you know, we circle back to what I wasn't impressed about with the car and why all of a sudden that was important. A lot of these newer cars, all this new tech and everything, is still really unproven. Getting into a vehicle that, yes, mechanically may not be a lot different than a 2004, at least you know that since 2004, this is what you can expect out of the car. And we all know about the inherent ringland issues and yada, 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 which from everything I'm reading, like speaking with other owners of STIs, you know, and EJ257s, is the ringland issue is definitely a bit overrated. There's a lot of hype around it, and the amount of, you know, EJ257s that are out in the world right now, the ringland issue is still a relatively small percentage of them. Now, I do know that it's not a matter of if, and it really is a matter of when. However, I just sold a set of wheels to a guy that has a Forester with 300,000 kilometers, near like 200,000 miles. Original long block, making 355 wheel horse, untouched long block. And he's just one of many examples. There's definitely something to be said for proper maintenance and for proper tuning before everybody, you know, jumps in the comments and like, oh, you know, that thing's a ticking time bomb and your Type R was more reliable and yada, yada, yada. I will definitely say the Type R, being a Honda, is assumed to be more reliable. But again, here in North America, we're only really familiar with the K20Z, the Type R engine, since 2017, really. So that is yet to be proven. Owning my Type R, I can tell you, after a few short laps on the track, that thing was overheating like crazy. Second gear grinds, fourth gear lockout. I mean, there was definitely immediate problems with the Type R, and it had really low mileage on it. You know, we could argue that it could be a more reliable car based on, you know, Honda's reliability, but that is really yet to be seen and proven in the long term, I think. But there's enough research, there's also enough data out there that we know what to expect with these cars, and if I do have some sort of failure, guess what? I know exactly where I'm going to go and what I'm going to get and who's done what and what's been proven and what hasn't been proven, because it's all out there. And that's what I love. I love the simplicity about this car. I love mechanical hydraulic steering. I love the fact that this is still a very mechanical car. It's not, you know, littered with a bunch of electronical aids and all sorts of craziness in here. It's still very simplistic, being such a modern and new car. Having had looked at other German cars, looking at their comparative maintenance costs, we all know that they're going to cost more money to maintain. And that just goes without saying. But the fact that I could buy this car and maintain it myself was a real plus. The fact that even if I had to do an engine in this car, I could do it myself. Whereas in a lot of the other vehicles I was looking at, not that I couldn't do it, but I don't have the mechanical experience because I've never worked on them, or the, you know, specific tools they require, programming and all this other stuff. And, you know, the reality is that if you're trying to be budget conscious, there's something to be said for a vehicle that I can comfortably work on, modify, and improve on without always having to run to the dealer or to a mechanic to get that stuff done. Ultimately led me to the decision to get this car. it checked off many of the boxes. It was proven, it's a Subaru, all-wheel drive, you know, reliability, okay, you know, that could be argued either way. At least we know the gearbox and everything else attached to it is pretty stout. Definitely a lot of advantages to getting this car over some of the competition. What are my plans with this car? Truthfully, daily driver for the time being. Inevitably, this is a base model STI, and I love the fact that it's base because down the road, at some point, when this car is essentially paid for, or nearly paid for, and it owes me nothing, and it's deemed worthless in the eyes of the automotive industry, then I can justify making it a dedicated track car. I can tear everything out of it, put a cage in it, call it a day, gut it, whatever. It has no sunroof, which is awesome. Again, when you're looking to make a track car, weight savings is key. The fewer the features, the better. And in my opinion, you can't get any better than a base model anything. Sure, it has its limitations, but I don't mind having a key that I put in the ignition and turn on, because that's what I grew up with. Kind of in the mindset of being light and simple, this really is about as simple as it gets. And I get all the cool mechanical stuff that you do in every other, in every other trim level STI. It has been absolutely amazing thus far. I've put about 3,000 kilometers on it, and no complaints. It is everything I expected and anticipated, and I'm actually getting reasonably decent fuel mileage out of it. All of you Honda fanboys, you can comment below about how I was dumb to get rid of the TypeR, and the STI is garbage, and it's a dinosaur, and the TypeR is a superior car. And listen, I'm not going to knock the TypeR. Somebody just recently asked me, because I had owned one previously, hey, I'm thinking about getting one, what are your thoughts? I said, great car. And they are a very, very good deal in terms of resale. Would I go buy a new 2020? Not for the price tag that they're asking. I think you can get a lot of other cars. But would I consider a 17, 18, 19, that's got relatively low miles? Absolutely. Again, I have nothing wrong to say about the TypeR, and I considered one again. Not a big power front-wheel drive guy. And I know they've done a lot of crazy wizardry to make it put the power down, but listen, I owned one, and when you would stab that throttle and the wheel hop and everything, it just really lost its appeal to me. If you're gonna make big power, you know what? Send it to all the wheels or the rear wheels, and yeah. Big power in a front-wheel drive car just didn't do it for me. It might do it for a lot of you, and that's perfectly fine. But I think anybody that's watching this video who's had a fair share of experience with different platform vehicles, they would probably agree. The TypeR is a special car. Honda did a fantastic job. But if anybody out there is familiar with an STI and knows the potential of a built STI, and I don't care what you say, if you're planning on pushing 400 horse, and even in a Type-R, you're still going to have to build it. So all things being equal, built Type-R, built STI, my money is going to be on the built STI all fucking day long. Sorry guys. Stay tuned. I promise you there's going to be some good content coming with this car. I just don't know what as of yet. However, I have ordered some things because it's me and I can't leave it alone. So, you'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.